Is the DR650 comfortable for long distance traveling? Let's talk about it. Hello, D-Rock here. Welcome to the channel. I hope you all are well. So recently I did a ride on my DR650, a 500-mile day. That was the longest ride I've ever done on a motorcycle in one day. And yes, the DR650 is very comfortable. Well, let's just say comfortable at those high mileage days. So I want to talk about a few things in regards to my bike and how I have it built out. You salty dogs out there that have been riding DR650s for the last 20 years, you probably have your whole system down pat. If you're new to, for lack of a better word, platform of the DR650, I'll just go over some of the things that I noticed on that extremely long ride. Well, I guess it's not extremely long, but let's just settle for a long day. That aided in the comfort of the day and also made things a little uncomfortable. So join me and let's get started. So if you have not done a very long day on your DR650 and you have the stock seat on your bike, the first thing you want to do is get rid of that stock seat. Now there's a few choices as far as seats go for the DR650. You've got Seat Concepts, you've got Procycle, you've got Sargent, Corbin. After a lot of research, I went with the Procycle standard seat, and it is an extremely comfortable seat. You can't, at least I don't think you can do a 500-mile ride on a stock seat on the DR650. That's just some absolute miserable punishment right there. So if you have not gotten rid of your stock seat on the DR650, you need to do so right now and go have a look at seats. As I mentioned, I went with the Procycle standard seat. It's a little wider. So what you're looking at now is the stock Suzuki DR650 seat, and I'm measuring it here, and it's about just under 7.5 inches wide. Where your actually butt is probably less width than that. It's probably 7.25, to be honest with you. That's right up your butt. It is terribly uncomfortable. Now moving over to the Procycle standard seat. As you can see, it's a little over 10 inches wide where your butt would actually be resting on the seat, maybe 10.25 pushing it. Big difference. A huge difference. I had no issues with butt comfort. I mean, 500 miles, you're going to be a little uncomfortable. It's a long day. It took me 11 hours of riding, but you couldn't do it on the stock seat. Anyway, I think the Sargent seat is maybe even a little wider than the Procycle seat. I think the Sargent comes in at 11 inches. I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe the Sargent is just slightly wider. One thing that I find slightly annoying with the wider seat is right around in this area, when you stand up, it's kind of pushing your legs out and can get a little uncomfortable. For example, on my CRF 300L, you can see here, this is the Seat Concepts Extra Large. You can see how it's cut, how it narrows in right here. So when I stand up, I'm not touching the seat at all. It's fantastic for standing. The Procycle seat is not cut out like that, so it does kind of press my legs outward, but I deal with it. I just stand a little farther up on the motorcycle while I'm standing. I work around it. The trade-off is it's fine as far as comfort. So one other thing I want to point out with the seat, the Procycle seat's a little higher than the stock seat, so that's made the handlebar situation uncomfortable for me. So what I'm doing is I bought some inch risers, and I'm also getting rid of the stock handlebars. So I'm going to pull the height of the handlebars up 1 inch. That's going to alleviate that problem with me leaning forward. That's one of the issues I had as far as being uncomfort on that big mileage day. Once that's done, and I believe the stock bars are 7/8, I've gone with a 1 1/8 fat bars from Procycle, plus a 1 inch riser, and then that's going to get taken care of. And also one thing I really want to point out, the stock grips, they're fine at a 100-mile day. However, at a 500-mile day, they become extremely, almost painful, to be honest with you. So I'm going to go with some Pro Taper grips. Those are ordered and will be here shortly. But you can see these grooves here. They actually start like biting into your palms. Very uncomfortable by 500 miles. Next is, I didn't have any issues as far as like finding gas. There were stretches, one stretch I did was 134 miles with no gas stations available on that ride. And I have, if you're not aware, the Precipice 6.6 gallon tank on this bike. I got 250 miles easy out of this tank, no sweat. As a matter of fact, I got 250 miles to 4.8 gallons of gas. Now, I've had some issues with this big tank. One issue, which may be my own fault, but I want to point this out. I put in 2 petcocks, one on each side, and I don't know if that was a good idea or not, looking back, because what happens is I have to run a fuel line from the right side of the bike over here. This is all connects here to a T-head and then into the carb. What this does is the bike comes with a a filter already installed in the carb here. It's trash, it needs to come out. And I bought a separate fuel filter to go in line here, but I didn't have enough space to work with. So adding that second petcock, and I could probably adjust my setup here this way to add a little more area to where I could put that fuel filter in and get rid of the stock one. But it's just a mess in here, to be honest with you. And I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix that by getting a different gas tank, as a matter of fact. I'll explain in a second. But one other problem I had with the tank here is there was some slight gas seepage from this petcock, and that's just, the clamp wasn't tight enough. I think it's better just to zip tie this, and you can get a little tighter thing. These clamps just don't seem to be tight enough. I thought they were. I didn't have any issues on shorter rides, but every 100, 150 miles when I was getting off the bike for like 5-minute shots to do some talking, whatever, I would inspect the bike, have a look over, make sure nothing was getting funky. And I noticed there was some slight fuel seepage coming here, so I've got to deal with that. Next issue, if I can get in here right with my finger, see this line here? This is, I believe, the vacuum line that went to the stock gas tank. And when I pulled all that stuff off the bike for the Precipice install, I made a mistake. I put a screw in here and then clamped it, and I noticed it on this long ride, and maybe this has been going on the whole time, I don't know, but I hadn't noticed it until this ride because I was inspecting the bike regularly. There was gas seeping out of this. Not much, but it's seeping enough that you know, it gets on a hot motor. That's no bueno. So I don't recommend. I had read that someone like this, that they had put the screw in, clamped it, and that was a good idea. No, it's not a good idea. This tubing needs to be bent up and zip tied to prevent any type of seepage, fuel seepage, because that's a big problem if that leaks onto a hot motor. Just wanted to point that out. So I've already ordered the 5.0-liter gas tank, the Precipice tank, and I've gone with a different color. I've gone with the translucent so I can see how much gas is in the tank visually. This is a big tank. I mean, looking at how much, the 6.6 is a huge tank for this bike. And after this trip, realizing that I could get 250 miles on 4.8 gallons of gas, that kind of like sealed the deal. I'm gonna go to a little smaller tank. It's gonna make the bike, I don't know, I'm presuming a little more narrow. And then I really wanna point out the glaring problem with this size tank. So the main issue with the Precipice 6.6 tank, and let me see if the camera's getting in there good. You can see right in here, this tank will rub on your oil cooler. I'm just curious as to why a Precipice would make something, I mean, why this problem hasn't been resolved. I know people have their own do-it-yourself fixes for this, whether, you know, sticking some type of more rubber or padding in there to push the tank up. But I mean, that's a known problem with this tank, and they haven't fixed it. What I understand with the 5.3 gallon tank, there's no issues like that at all. And there's also no tank wobble. I've for that trip, I jammed some cardboard, and I already had rubbing padding stuffed in here attached to the frame to try and alleviate that problem. But I didn't have enough padding. So I also glued with some adhesive a piece of copper, because if the tank's going to rub into that oil cooler and the tank, you know, vibrates with the bike, over time, that oil cooler is probably going to cut into the plastic, if not melt it, depending on how it touches it. And then you've got another big issue. So I know there's, like I said, remedies to alleviate that problem, but it's the principle of it that just bugs the heck out of me. I still think it's a great tank, but it's big. You get that thing filled with 6.6 gallons of gas, and the bike goes over on its side. Oh man, it's already a heavy bike. Getting that thing up is just, it's terrible. I mean, it's a beat down lifting that up. So I'm going with the small. I know you can, well, you don't have to put 6.6 gallons in. I feel you. I understand you can put less gas in. It's just, for me, I think the easiest thing to do is just to go down to a smaller tank. And then I always carry extra bottles of gas, like the MSR bottle here. And I also carry a gallon roto packs that I can detach from the bike. So that's my next thing. Now, did that affect the ride? No, but going down to the smaller gas tank is not a big deal, because I can still get achievable distances like that with it, say 250 miles. One other important change I did to this bike prior to this ride was the foot pegs. These are the Procycle lowered foot pegs. Man, let me tell you, that makes a huge difference. I thought I was going to have some pretty intense knee pain from that long ride. However, my knees I really didn't have any problems with my knees. I was very, very surprised. I even mentioned it in the video, right at the end of the video. I was like, I thought I was going to have some knee problems because I don't have highway pegs to stretch out my legs or anything on the bike. That's another reason I probably want to keep the crash guards, because I could put some highway pegs on here. But those lowered foot pegs made a huge difference. So if you have not done that on your stock DR650 and you're, I don't know, 5'10" or taller, I highly, highly recommend at least doing the lowered foot pegs and the seat change. Those two things make a long distance ride night and day. One other feature, well, actually two other features that I'll talk about here with the DR650. So the DR650 doesn't, if you don't know, doesn't come with a windshield. I went with the Madstad adjustable windshield. This is the 18-inch. No, I'm sorry, this is the 20-inch. It comes in three sizes, 18, 20, and 22, if I'm not mistaken. Wow, man, huge difference. I know some people are like, I don't need a windshield. I get you, that's cool. However, I get tired, especially when it gets really cold, the buffeting in my chest. So I went with this. This can be adjusted. It can be moved up, out, all these positions. I like it in the completely lower position. It works perfectly fine right there for me. This made a huge difference. I did get into some pretty strong winds, or sections of winds, I should say, on that ride. And having the windshield, I'm sorry, I guess it means the same thing, made a huge difference in comfort. Just not having that just steady, howling wind on your chest. And another thing I want to point out is I did switch out the stock headlight, which is terrible. It's terrible light. I went with the Cyclops, was it H410 LED. It's a super bright light. I want people to see me. And I haven't really done much night riding with it, so I can't really speak on that, but I know for a fact that it's highly visible from miles. So I think that was Well, it may not have made things more comfortable for me, but it lets people see me, which is very important. One thing I will point out about the Madstad windshield, the one issue I have had with it is the vibration from the DR650 while riding kind of backs out the adjustment knobs. Well, actually one in particular, I can usually tighten all of them down except this one over here gives me an issue for some reason. It just backs out more than the other one. So, as I said, I like the position that it's in. I don't really need to move it around. I've been in high winds with this, just works fine. So I just put a little blue Loctite on there and that resolved the problem. Problem solved. Now I get a lot of questions about the DR650 since I ride predominantly in the desert. It's an air-cooled bike. That day I did the 500-mile ride. It was triple-digit heat. Now I went up in elevation quite a bit, but by early afternoon down to late afternoon, I was in the 90s and then down into 100 degrees. I had no issues with the bike overheating or anything of that nature. I have ridden this bike plenty of times in triple-degree heat, and I have no issues with it being air-cooled. So if you are new to the DR650 platform or looking to get into one of these bikes and weren't aware of some of these features, hopefully this video you found helpful. I mean, I can't say enough. 3 major things: the seat, the lower foot pegs, maybe to a lesser degree the windshield. But if you're going to go long miles on a DR650, get rid of those stock hand grips. They are terrible. Stock seats gotta go. You got some good choices out there. And of course a larger gas tank. You know, it's up to the individual. But there you have it. Those are some of the things that improved my ride. And once I deal with the whole hand grips, gas tank, new handlebars and that, I think this bike's going to be just an absolute delight for hard mileage pushes like that, 500, 600, 750 mile days. I don't foresee being a problem at all. So folks, thank you very much for watching. I got lots more content on the way. If you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It's free. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. D-Rock out. Stay safe out there. Adios.